You know, when you think of the Himalayas, what comes to mind? Probably something like this, right? A huge, unconquerable wall of rock and ice. A feature so massive, it seems to carve out the very shape of our planet. Let's dive in.
And for thousands of years, that's pretty much how we've seen them. From a strategic point of view, they've been considered the ultimate natural fortress, this giant, impenetrable barrier standing guard over the Indian subcontinent.
But what if that whole stop-in armies thing, what if that's actually the least important thing they do? What if their real power, their most critical job, is something that's happening silently, every single day, in ways we almost never stop to think about?
Okay, so don't get me wrong, their military role is a big deal. We can't just ignore it. So let's start there, with the most obvious role they play.
And yeah, it's absolutely true. For centuries, these ranges have been this incredible, almost impossible challenge for any invading army. They've totally shaped the history of the whole region. But, and this is the key part, this is just the first layer of what the Himalayas really do.
So now, let's peel back that first layer. Let's look past the physical wall and talk about an invisible shield, one that literally controls the very air India breathes.
And this is where it gets really mind-blowing. Just look at the difference here. The Himalayas act like a gigantic climate barrier. They stop all those freezing, dry winds that come sweeping down from Central Asia. If that wall wasn't there, you know what northern India would be? It would probably be a cold, empty desert, kind of like Tibet, which is right on the other side.
But blocking the cold, that's only half the story. The mountains also create weather. In the summer, all this warm, moist air blows in from the Indian Ocean, and bam! It hits the Himalayas and can't go any further. It's forced to go up, it cools down, and it just dumps all that moisture as rain. And that right there, that's the engine that drives the Indian summer monsoon.
And look at this number, 70%. Just think about that for a second. The vast majority of the water that the entire country depends on for farming, for life, it's a direct result of this mountain range. So it's not just a wall, it's a massive, continent-sized rainmaker.
Okay, so the Himalayas make it rain. But their job as a life giver goes even deeper than that. You can think of them as Asia's great water tower.
And this is how it works. It's this beautiful, life-giving cycle. Every winter, tons and tons of snow falls and gets packed into these massive glaciers. They're basically giant frozen reservoirs. Then, when the hot, dry season hits, that ice and snow starts to melt, releasing a steady, reliable stream of fresh water right when the plains below need it the most.
And we're not talking about just any small rivers here. We're talking about the absolute lifelines of the subcontinent, the Indus, the Ganga, and the Brahmaputra. All three of them start their journey right here in the Himalayas.
And this number, this is what really brings it home. Over 800 million people. That's more than double the population of the entire United States. All of them depend directly on water that started as snow and ice in the Himalayas. I mean, that makes these mountains one of the most important water sources for all of humanity, period.
You know, this connection to the water, it goes way beyond just the physical need for it. This quote says it perfectly. These rivers, especially the Ganga, they aren't just for drinking or farming. They are woven into the very identity, the very soul of the people.
And that right there brings us to our final layer of the Himalayan shield. And honestly, it might be the most profound one of all. Its role as a cultural and spiritual heart. So if the Himalayas shape the land, the climate, and the water, it only makes sense that they also shape its soul. You don't just feel their presence in the weather or the rivers. You feel it in the country's myths, its religions, its art, everything. For millions and millions of people, these aren't just piles of rock and ice. They're the Devabhumi, the home of the gods. They're the source of holy rivers, the destination for pilgrims trying to find enlightenment, and they've been the inspiration for poets and thinkers for centuries. That spiritual weight is a huge part of their strategic importance.
So, let's put it all together. When you step back and look at the whole picture, it's so much more complex and way more important than just a simple wall.
Here it is, all laid out. The Himalayas are really this complete four-layered shield. Yes, there's the military shield, the physical barrier, but there's also the climate shield that makes the weather, the hydrological shield that provides the water, and the cultural shield that acts as a spiritual anchor. And the craziest part? They're all connected.
And here's the main takeaway from all of this. You can't separate these roles. The water gives birth to the culture.
The climate allows the civilization to grow, and the physical wall helps protect it all. It's that complete package that makes the Himalayas India's true, indispensable fortress.
And all of this leaves us with a really big, really critical question for the future. We've always thought of these mountains as, well, eternal, right? Unchanging. But we live in a world that's getting warmer, where glaciers are melting. So what happens? What happens to India's climate, its water, its very soul, when its greatest shield starts to weaken?